guys, and welcome back. Today I'm working on the YouTube Artist Collective piece for this time, and this theme is vintage. And don't worry, I'll talk a bit about where I got the inspiration and the idea for this piece and how it ties in with vintage and all that good stuff. But this time working on this particular theme and this project, it was quite a roller coaster ride. But in a good way. I feel like everything that I went through as I was working on this was all good stuff that propelled me in a good direction, but it was a lot of me shifting and changing as I was working on figuring this out. So a little bit of backstory on how I got to this final project is I had a whole completely different piece, completely sketched out. I'm still very excited about it. You're still going to be able to see it, but it was a lot more involved than I would like to do within the span of time that I had given myself. So I didn't want to rush it, and I didn't want it to be something that could have been really good, but I didn't give myself the opportunity. So I decided, okay, well, I'll work on another sketch. I'll put this on the side until it's time to work on that. And then I started working on this other sketch, and in the execution, it got farther and farther away from the actual theme. So while I'm really loving this other little painting, it is just not quite there. So I decided, okay, I should really get something that fits with the theme, fits with this restraint, because it really is incredibly inspiring for me, and also I think it really helps me grow as an artist to make sure that I'm working around that kind of a theme. So I decided to table both of those paintings, both of those pieces until a later date and get back to the theme. So the theme, vintage, obviously there are just so many different ways to interpret this, different eras that you can choose for vintage, and vintage is a very open-ended era, but I actually decided to go more with a 90s kind of a pixel art game look. I loved growing up getting a lot of inspiration for my artwork from video games, and I've talked about that in the past. It's one of the things that I find still brings me a lot of inspiration and excitement and ideas. So I thought that would be a good one once I finally circled back after going through a few different project ideas to come back to something that I've always really loved. And this is actually something that I've been really intrigued by, and I always have these passing desires to try out pixel art, and I never quite do it. So I'm really happy that in this path of working on other things, I'm really happy that it finally led me to working on something that for a long time I've been really wanting to do and haven't really done it, haven't committed to it. So today I am playing with pixel art, as you can probably tell, and I'll be honest, working on just this one and looking up all of the ideas while I was working on this, which is something that I love looking at anyways, and I've looked at plenty before this, but it's really exciting me to want to do more pixel art, to explore what I can do with it, and to push it beyond what I was just doing today. But I don't know, there's something really magical about it. The fact that it does feel really nostalgic for me, but also I think it's just really, really fascinating how you can take this really beautiful setting and then turn it into this very rich looking piece that's done with such a minimal execution. And I think maybe that's one of the things that I find really fascinating about a lot of the things that I was looking at, is that they create these little tiny worlds that have so much character and life and mystery and intrigue, and I love that. I have been looking for ways to get that into my artwork, and it always feels really daunting to get like very rich backgrounds or rich environments. And looking at these really amazing pixel artworks, I don't know, it gives me a lot of excitement about figuring out a way to start forcing myself to work in it in a way that is easy to digest, I guess, to think about it and execute it. It's almost like tricking myself, where it feels really daunting when I'm thinking about doing like a full rendered painted piece, and I feel like it's outside of my capabilities currently to be able to do something that I could imagine in my head and wish to be able to do. So I avoid it, I guess, not really intentionally, but I do. But I think being able to infuse this kind of artwork where it's simplifying it in a way that I could sit down and just have fun with it, and then realize later that I was actually learning from it and progressing and trying out new things that I hadn't tried out before. I think it would put me in a place that'll help open up my imagination a little bit better. Not let myself block it behind this like wall where I feel like I don't have the actual skills to bring it into fruition. I can do something and it can be there and it can be real quickly. I don't know. I think that this will be something that's really fun for me to work on. And while it is, I think, really easy to look at pixel art and to be able to easily digest it and see where each little dot and each little pixel is, and then break it down and understand the layout of it, it's also exciting because there's a lot of technical things that I can learn about it to figure out how to do it best and how to have it as crisp and sharp as possible and how to figure out how to have it the right size. There's just a lot of things that kind of stuff I love learning, and I love being able to immediately see growth in my artwork. So I don't know, I think it's a really fun combination where I feel like I can jump right in and start working on it, but I also have a lot of upward growth and research and learning that I can do with it. But a little bit about the actual piece that I'm working on. Well, the core idea was the pixel art. I wanted it to look like an old video game. I also wanted to incorporate a little bit of like a visual graphical error. I love different artwork or photos where they have this like fragmented look to certain things, where you would see the pure red color of something or the pure blue as it like splinters off and it's not quite aligned correctly, which is definitely something that I remember from my TVs in the 90s. So that kind of thing, I think, just creates this really interesting callback to that era, to that time, and I love being able to incorporate things like that into this work. I did end up doing it with the figure and with the words down in the corner, where I just duplicated the layer and then I colored over it with, again, a very pure color of blue and red, and then I offset them just a little bit. I also wanted to have that little phrase down at the bottom. Originally I had it in a frame, almost like it was a dialogue box in a video game, but the balance of it with the rest of the piece just wasn't quite working with me, so I decided that it would be better to have a balanced, clean looking piece than it was to stick so strictly to that original concept. So I got rid of the dialogue box itself and just had the words down in the corner. That's another thing that I really love about a lot of these references or these ideas that I was getting from, where they have a lot of words that are incorporated in imagery. And you'll probably notice, but I played with the moon a lot in this piece, and it was genuinely really fun to be able to come up with a new idea and within seconds have it down and have it completed, and to be able to see how it affected the mood and the feeling and the atmosphere within the piece. That's something that with a lot of different types of art and styles of art, it's just either not possible or it takes significantly longer to render it out, and that can feel really tedious. So it's really satisfying to have something so instantly achievable, and it allowed me to really just use my imagination and play with what kind of world I wanted to create in this piece and a little bit more of the story that was happening here. And I don't know, I loved that, how it was a really simple setting and a simple thing really when you break it down, but between the few clues that are in it, it can tell a little bit more of a story or make the viewer think that there's a story there. Originally, I just had a full, complete, normal moon, and then I ended up playing with adding rings around the moon like Saturn, but I had the idea that maybe I wanted to break it off and have it like it's disintegrating, and maybe that's what's coming down in the form of these meteors in the background. And I love being able to play with that and see what kind of world I could create. But that's also another part of this like theme and aesthetic with the 90s vintage look, There's a lot of stuff with like spacey out there looks that I love. I would love to do more of that. I didn't really realize how much I would love to do that, but it's always been a fascination of mine, which I think a lot of us can really relate to that, but being fascinated with space and these really amazing other earthly things that we can view and experience. And I would like to bring that into more of all of my artwork. And that is it for today. I would love to hear if any of you guys took part in this YouTube Artist Collective theme, which is vintage, by the way. I just love seeing how everyone incorporates it into their own art style and how they turn it into something new. But yeah, let me know about anything that you're working on or if you worked on this theme. But that's it for today. I do have a link down in the description that'll take you over to my art shop, as well as a link to my Patreon, which is a great way to help support me and this channel. And I post every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so see you guys on my next video, which will be on Wednesday.